Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, hello, hello. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to Space Engineers on the Xbox, on the Series X. And this is a quick little tutorial based on something that people were talking about on the Facebook group, as per usual, before we eventually dive back into the construction of my large grid ship that I've been doing as part of the tutorial series on that. I wanted to talk about how to make sure that rovers and small grid ships, you'll notice this one is missing thrusters because I have, for the time being, moved the mod pack out, but that's fine. We can deal with that as and when. I've got a few things. Anyway, what we want here is to start building, let's move out into the sun, a platform. Because I want to talk about charging your vehicles. To begin with, let's pop down a block, and you've got free placement mode here. But if you hold down the left bumper and hit right trigger, you can change it to gravity align or to local grid. I'd suggest going to gravity alignment mode and then just popping one block down. Now, if you're building in creative, you can have line mode activated. And if you click in the right stick, you can see there's multi-block building line. And if once you select that, you can have multi-block building plane, single block, or line. And once you've selected line, let go of the stick, tap the right bumper to confirm it, and all is good. So we want 3. Actually, let's come out this way. Six blocks, I think, will do it. 6 blocks this way. Pull it 6 blocks this way, and you just need to fill in base platform. I say I could have done this using the plane build mode, but I like to build in lines. I find it gives you more structure. It's easier. And you might get a situation here like this where you want to put a block underneath. Just change to local grid alignment mode by holding down left bumper and tapping RT, and then you can just make things a little more as though they might be work in the real world. But what we want to do with this is we want to look at the ways you could make a charging station. Now, the simplest way to make a charging station for your vehicles is really to slap down a block like this and one block above it. And then if you're using a non-rover vehicle like a little shuttle or whatever, as long as you've got enough space to put down a connector, pop that connector on that block there, and then all you'd need, if you're on a planet like I am, the Earth-like, honestly, is just one wind turbine. Now you'll notice though that wind turbine is moving very slowly, and it's not at all efficient. So what can you do? Well, in this case, I'm going to have to organize this a bit differently because there's actually I could just move the starship for the time being I'll tell you what, I will extend this out anyway. So that is quite slow. There is a method I use when it comes to building power towers. And bear in mind, as long as it's on your grid, it doesn't matter how many blocks that this tower goes out. What matters is the height of the tower. Now, I often go up to anything between 12 to 15 blocks. Probably want to go 15 here and have our wind turbine at the top. Spinning much faster and at optimal range. Now, one of the other things I like to do with these towers is drop block around the top like this. And if you've got the resources, when you're playing in survival, build another 4 wind turbines around your central tower. And remember the rule for taking things out of your hand: hold down the left bumper and press B. We want to quickly check how we're doing on our wind turbines. We can go to our build menu again, flick across until we get to buttons. Select a button panel and you're looking for the control panel. Put it in with the circle facing to the top, press it once, and then you can scroll through your wind turbines and you'll see their current clearance is optimal. That means they're pushing out what they should be pushing out. To this grid here. So if I put a thing on this grid that requires power, then it will work. Also, things that can be used to create charging stations. So let's put that block back, and this block, and then our happy-go-lucky connector. That, in simple essence, is a charging station. You can take a vehicle and dock it onto that, then set the batteries to recharge. Let's have a look in my blueprints if I've got anything I can bring into play around with. There we go. And always remember, when you're blueprinting ships, make sure the thrusters are on, because the last thing you want is to bring a ship in and have that thing crash to the deck. So you'll see on my ship here that we have thrusters and connectors. If we go into the control panel and we look at my connector here, it's just called connector at the moment, you'll see that you can change a few things here. You can use it for parking. So is this block triggered by the parking signal? In other words, if I press the Y button, does this block trigger as well? Well, let's turn that off for a start, because I like to trigger things off the D-pad, as you know. And you can also have an override power transfer, and that allows you to transfer power while the grid is powered off. Let's ignore that for now though, and if we hold down the right bumper, tap up, we can switch into third person view. And if you want to scroll your camera around, hold both bumpers and push the right stick. We can see where we're going. Like I said, this is a very basic system. And now our connector is ready to lock. We've got the connector on the D-pad, so we just press down on the D-pad and we have locked the connector. So now, any batteries on board this will be depleted in 6 hours. So what we want to do is we want to look at our batteries, and we've got 2 here. And make sure we've only got 2. Let's just type the word battery in on the search box. And you'll see we've got more than 2. We've got small batteries as well. So we want to put all of these batteries, starting by pressing A, holding down the right bumper, and just tap A. It's easier than trying to just sort of scroll it all down. Using the left stick across the block group as per usual, and we'll just call this batteries. And then we save off the group, and you'll see that there's a charge mode. They're set to auto at the moment. Well, what we can do here is if we change our shortcut by holding down left stick and tapping B, we can open a new page. Then if we push up on the D-pad and then go down to groups with the right bumper, you'll see that we have batteries. If we select the batteries, and now you can have recharge on off, discharge on off, enable auto. So you can put recharge on off on the D-pad. So when we hit this, our batteries will now go into recharge mode. And you'll now see they won't be depleted. And you can toggle that back to auto, to recharge with the tap of the D-pad. Turn the stuff now as well. What you don't want to do is disconnect this ship while its thrusters are off. But that will recharge the batteries on board there using the power from these turbines. And as you can see, we're now connected to our ship grid as well. And it's in a different colour to tell you that it's a subgrid. So these things are doing a nice little job. A lot of wind clearance. And if you're going to build wind turbines, do it like this. Don't build them close together, because you'll reduce the effectiveness of the wind turbines around each other quite drastically. If I gave you a demonstration of that, let's see. If I throw down just a block there, let's pull them up into the air. Think how far I go really on this. And we'll just use a block there and there. See that wind turbines have a space if you look, so you can't put them next to each other like that. So you want to have at least that much clearance between each one. But doing it like this means you can get away with having optimal clearance because they're not blocking each other. But if I started to put wind turbines all over the place, next around to each other, having another tower of turbines next to each other, you'll find that you'll start running out of space and it will start really messing with the optimal clearance. The idea is not to block the turbines. This is why building them like this makes it easier to do. But if I built a second tower next to it, where these turbines were touching, that's where we'd have the problem with the wind turbines themselves. So that's another method you can use to build a tower, but it does get a bit trickier rather than doing it like this, which means there is no loss of clearance at all. And if you wanted to build another tower, you can do what I've done there and just replicate that over here. You shouldn't need that much wind really to charge any vehicle on a separate charging platform. And the reason that you build a separate charging platform is that if we build a charging platform over on this base here, and it's actually connected to the base, this one isn't. This is actually separate, just resting on the base with its own little wind turbine. But if we did a full charge station on here, then we'd be connecting up batteries and so on to this grid. And anything that uses power on this grid could potentially draw from the batteries on our ships. And the last thing you really want is to leave your ship connected, come back to it and find out that your ship batteries have actually been drained by your main grid. Anyway, so that is just a quick sort of introduction on a basic charging station. You can, if you so desire, mess around by using a piston to change the height of this connector. Though what I would suggest in that regard is only using one wind turbine and putting that wind turbine so it's on the grid that the connector's connected to, because you can have some issues with pistons, subgrids and transferring power now and then. And that's really it. We'll be looking obviously at the next stage of this, which I'm thinking is going to be some interior fiddling, because as you know, we in the last big tutorial for this we created the bridge, and I've since added a couple of chairs here and here for passengers, but I want to look at fleshing out and putting lighting into this area, putting some extra bits into this area, and obviously lighting up the rear of the ship here. Also, I'll still need to mess around with probably gyroscope settings as this ship gets bigger, because it will get heavier and harder to turn, and also change the field on the gravity generator, because it will only reach up to about here. You won't have any gravity on the bridge at the moment, because when I originally built the ship, the bridge did not exist. Anyway, that's it. That's all I want to do for this one. Keep it to around the 20-minute mark or so. Thanks again for supporting the channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. It helps out more than you know. And I will catch you in the next one. Enjoy the game. Have fun. Happy engineering. Bye for now.